At the same time, it's important to the department and TSA that we accommodate religious observance where we can do so. To be more responsive to the Sikh community in particular, last September, Margot Schlanger, that's the Officer for Civil Rights at DHS, and I met with representatives from Saldiv, United Sikhs and Sikh Coalition to hear some of their concerns about the screening of turbans and other religious headwear. And at that meeting, we explained the current approach to screening of headwear, religious and non-religious, and heard the complaints and concerns of the organizations. So overall, you should know that we do engage in community outreach on a regular basis through my office and the divisions within it. We've engaged with not only the Sikh community, South Asian, Arab, Muslim, Jewish, Native American, transgender communities on a routine basis, both through informal and formal meetings and teleconferences, and also, I must say, the disability community. Last week I was at the Amputee Coalition. They have unique concerns as they travel through security checkpoints also. We also host an annual conference where we invite a diverse community of partners across the country to hear from our senior leaders about their programs. That comes up in September. Moving on to advanced imaging technology, AIT. Today we are very concerned about the well-concealed improvised explosive devices, IEDs, made entirely of non-metallic materials. To counter this threat, we have aggressively deployed methods and technologies that can detect these items. While there's no silver bullet to advanced imaging technology or AIT, it gives us the best opportunity to detect non-metallic explosives. We started piloting AIT in 2007. It's designed to address non-metallic threat by seeing anomalies on the body. Based on security analysis and threats that could be hidden under clothing that would not alarm a metal detector. And that's the key. The advanced imaging technology, not only, since it shows anomalies on the body, it can get to the metallic and the non-metallic threat. Privacy protocols were designed consistent with FIPS, the Fair Information Practice Principles in mind. The main protections are anonymity, and that's achieved in several ways. By isolating the image operator in a room so that they can't see the passenger, and either blurring or distorting or degrading the image of the face. So before we deployed advanced imaging technology, because you have to take the airport as you find them, we had to build rooms that have no windows so that the image operator, the person actually viewing the image, could not in fact see the travel. The second thing is choice. An individual can opt out of advanced imaging technology. And there are a number of reasons that people may choose to opt out, but I checked the statistics before I left. Only about 1% are opting out of that technology. The other protocol we put in place is notice. On every machine, it shows a picture of the image, and it advises of the option to opt out. And then finally, the images are not retained. As far as the one of the things that I want to say about advanced imaging technology, because I served in a panel up in Boston and it was suggested that AIT could be used to profile. And actually, from my perspective, it actually is the opposite. It actually, the image operator can't tell the race, national origin, and certainly not the religion of the person, because they are seeing an image. They can tell the gender, but they can't tell race or ethnicity or age or any form of minority status. We've made some accommodations for modesty. We did have a meeting of about a dozen religious leaders. We invited them to our, we call it TISA. I know the government has acronyms, but it's where we test our technology. It's a warehouse on the property of National Airport. And they raised a lot of concerns about modesty. And of the advanced imaging technology, and one of the things that they suggested and we incorporated is you can ask the gender of the actual image operator to allow a person to determine if that was the deciding factor, if the gender is female and you only want to have a female image operator view it, then you can get the answer to that and proceed. Our overall hope is that ATR, automatic target recognition, which is basically advanced imaging technology, but without the image of the individual's body. It's a generic image that will be deployed. It's being tested and piloted now. That will be deployed this year. And the big thing with that is it's a generic. It's not an individual's body. It's a generic outline, and if there is an anomaly, a yellow box appears where the anomaly is, and if there is no anomaly, so OK comes up on the machine. So we're testing that new software in AIT, and it's designed to enhance the privacy by just totally eliminating the passenger-specific image. Instead, it auto-detects potential threat items and indicates their location on a generic outline of a person that will appear on the monitor. And I went out to see the pilot in a number of the airports that are piloting it. So the area that's identified as containing potential threat will require additional screening, but the generic outline will be identical for all passengers. And if no potential threat items are detected, like I said, an OK will appear on the monitor with no outline. There are populations for which AIT has also been a great impact, just as it has been a benefit for others. So, for example, passengers with metal implants that would previously alarm a metal detector and have to undergo physical screening typically do not alarm in the AIT. So they no longer get the pat-down they used to get. Of course, on the other hand, those who have prosthetics do show an anomaly on AIT, so we traded off one for the other. Last point on AIT that I might as well talk about is the suggestion that AIT only be used in a secondary screening set. First, with the very first PIA, or Privacy Impact Assessment, back in January of 2008, we stated that we would pilot these in primary and secondary modes. And I don't know if everybody knows primary and secondary, but when we piloted them, initially you went through a walk-through metal detector, and the advanced imaging technology was behind the walk-through metal detector. So that pilot also piloted in the primary location. But as I've been saying from the beginning, the threat has changed from metallic to non-metallic. And so the technology that best gets at the non-metallic threat, which we know is upon us, is the advanced imaging technology. So to be clear, the pat-down involved to resolve an AIT anomaly is done to resolve the anomaly identified on the screen. For those who opt out of AIT screening, a pat-down is conducted to provide a comparable level of security that the technology would provide. And pat-downs are designed to mitigate the threat that someone would be, that we're currently facing. So if a person has to have a pat-down, they receive a pat-down from a person of the same gender. And that pat-down can be conducted in private, and the traveler can be accompanied by a person of his or her choosing. So I'm going to move on to, they said I could have a little extra time, but I want to cover behavior detection officers, because this morning as I started my day, I saw a CNN article, so I'm sure it's going to come up. So BDO, so the Behavior Detection Program, is designed to look for people displaying behaviors that might indicate that they pose a threat. From a privacy perspective, we did not want to maintain a database of people who look suspicious. So we don't capture anything on these individuals unless there are sufficient behaviors to call a law enforcement officer. So if there's a need to refer to a law enforcement officer, then we actually collect additional data. As far as concerns for profiling or prohibit selection, there are some factors that mitigate that risk. First, BDOs typically work in teams, and they must concur on the behaviors. Also, it's, most of you travel, so that our BDOs and our TSOs are done in a fairly public domain. Despite all of that, I did mention we have 50,000 employees, and so not all of them are always with the program. And so you may have read in the news, and if you didn't, I'll tell you, at the Newark Liberty International Airport, some of our BDOs were singling out Mexicans and Dominicans for extra scrutiny at the direction of their managers. So first, I just want to say that all of those individuals have been dealt with, and the manager is no longer in TSA employed, because it is absolutely against our policy to profile. And the behavior detection program is specifically designed to look for behaviors that, in fact, you have no control of, like sweating and twitching, things that might indicate that you are being deceptive. And it's not any one thing that you should be doing. And like I said, there should be dual confirmation of that. So I've covered the headwear, pat-downs, a little bit about pat-downs, AIT, BDO. So let me just talk a little bit about the future, and then I'm going to sit down. Okay, so within TSA, we have undertaken our own review of all of our procedures. Last fall, our new administrator, John Pistol, directed the agency to explore ways to develop a strategy for truly risk-based security. He wants to move away from the one-size-fits-all. So we've been looking at everything, including what procedures and technologies we use, how our specific procedures are carried out, how certain segments of the population are screened. I point these three specifics to illustrate that we're truly looking at every aspect of what we do. And even beyond assessing what we already do, we're also exploring things we could do. One specific thing we're considering is developing ways to expand our ability to conduct more identity-based screening. Just about 6 months into this process, we've made some good progress towards developing a long-term security construct that we hope could eventually change the flying experience for most travelers. While many of those potential changes are still being developed, and so I can't go into specifics, so they're not quite ready to be rolled out, I think over the coming months you will start to see some concrete changes in how we go about doing screening. For example, one change that I can share is a new crew member screening system. We're currently testing an identity-based system that will enable TSA security officers to positively verify the identity and employment status of pilots. As these individuals are tasked with flying the plane and controlling the airplane, screening pilots in the same way we screen everyone else just doesn't make sense. So we're, if they have the yoke of the airplane, obviously, if they want to do harm, they can. And so we're trying to move to making sure that that is the pilot, and they're currently employed by the airline, and that be the level of screening. So in conclusion, I do want to emphasize that we at TSA take into account privacy and civil rights and civil liberties implications of our screening policies, our security policies, and as they evolve, we will continue to engage with various communities. As I mentioned earlier, we do have a robust review process that we have in place, which includes not only the Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties and the Office of Privacy that report to me, but also the Department's Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties, our Chief Counsel, and others. And we're always looking for the least security screening, the least intrusive security procedures that we can put in place, but still keep the traveling public safe. So that's always a balancing act, not an easy one. And feedback from the various organizations that we partner with is always helpful in informing us on the impact. Once again, thank you for this opportunity for me to come and share with you today and to be a part of this panel, and I am sure I will get questions at the end.